Hola, bienvenidos a todos a mi canal, Spanish Blueprints. My name is Joshua, and this channel is dedicated to guiding you during your Spanish learning journey. And along this journey, you might end up in some countries in Latin America, and that's what happened to me. So in this video, I want to share with you 5 different tips that you should keep in mind when you're traveling through Latin America. And please don't forget to like this video if you are finding value in it. Primero que nada, I want to make it clear to you that I am not a travel agent or an expert with travel. But I do want to share with you some of my experiences because I have made a ton of mistakes during my travels in Latin America, and I don't want you to make them. And I believe that my experiences can be very valuable to you because they're not coming from someone who is just trying to relax on the beach, but from a perspective of someone who is a Spanish learner, who's trying to learn more about the Spanish culture and communicate with different people and learn about the music, learn about the history. Now, the first tip that I have for you is not to be overly obsessed and worried about learning about the culture that the country that you're going to, because you're going to be able to learn that while you're there. For example, before I went to Mexico and the Dominican Republic, I was trying to study as many new colloquial phrases and words as possible, trying to learn the slang, watching a lot of different movies, and trying to cram as much information as possible into my brain so I could, speak exactly like a Mexican or speak exactly like a Dominican. But the issue with that is, as you know, learning a new language, and especially when it comes to new dialects and new accents, it takes practice and it takes dedication. So trying to do that whole cramming thing just doesn't really work in this case. And it definitely did not work. It started to make me feel a little frustrated that I couldn't sound exactly like a particular Dominican or Mexican. So it became almost like a type of comparison between me and them, which obviously is pretty insane because I'm not going to be sounding exactly like them if I'm not from there and I don't know any of the slang that they speak there. So don't obsess over trying to sound exactly like a native or anything like that, because that just takes time and you're gonna learn a lot during your trip of how to do that. Now, the second tip that I have for you that might sound a little bit counter to the first one is to do your research. Because before you go anywhere, of course, you would want to do your due diligence and making sure that you're going to the right place and that it is good for you and your family or your friends. So this will help to give you a good idea of where you want to be. This is going to help you figure out where exactly that you would like to be. Where would you like to visit? Do you want to visit somewhere smaller like Tequila in Mexico? Or do you want to be in a larger city like La Ciudad de Mexico, where there is going to be more activities for you to do and a lot more people around? Another reason why I want you to do your own research about the places that you're going is for misinformation, because you might get a lot of opinions from different people about your travels. And that's what happened to me. So when I would discuss where I was going, I'm going to Guadalajara, Mexico, next few weeks to someone, then I would usually get sort of opinion that was not necessarily correct. For example, someone's opinion might be directly from a TV show, or they might actually mention a TV show. Like with me, it's like, oh man, I saw Narcos, or I saw this show on Netflix, so you better be careful. But obviously that's just not necessarily reality, because a movie on Netflix is not gonna tell you everything, or probably not even the truth about the people and about the culture, about a particular city or country. So I just want you to keep that in mind. And then also, just because a lot of the people that you might discuss your travel plans with, they have never visited outside of the United States. They might not have ever visited Latin America. So they might not know anything about the people. They might not know anything about the culture, and they might not even speak Spanish at all. I've also leveraged Facebook groups as a source of information to learn about a particular city that I was going to visit. So I have found a lot of expat groups, and expats are expatriates. I don't know exactly where the origin of this name came from. I'm still kind of confused on the definition, but basically it's someone who is living outside of their native country. A big reason why I like these types of groups is because they have a lot of people who have moved to a new country. So if they move to a new country, they have been through a lot of the legal systems. They know a lot about the immigrant regulations. They know a lot about politics and things like that. Just hear about other people's experiences, places that they like to go, places that they don't like to go, news topics as well. the different types of things that could be going on within a city and within a country, but from a person who's actually living there and experiencing the day-to-day life there. But it's like with any other resource, just to be careful and just kind of filter out the noise. And the third tip that I have for you is that you don't buy anything that you did not plan to buy. Because I have done this a lot, and after looking at that price tag, I was quite ashamed. And I've done this a lot of times just because I felt pressured like I had to buy something, but that's just kind of strange. You don't need to buy anything if you don't want to, especially within popular tourist areas because they're getting a lot of traffic of people there and the prices can be very high. And a lot of people don't know what the prices should be for a particular product. So it's definitely an area where you can spend a lot of money without even thinking about it. Now, the fourth tip that I have for you is that you don't make too many purchases before your trip. So that could be from different activities and different tickets and things like that. There's just a limited amount of information online. Of course, there is a lot, but at the same time, you're not going to be able to find every single, popular place and find events and things like that online. Just depends on the location that you're going to. So that's why it's going to open up the door for you to actually start talking to people in Spanish and learning from the people there. So now I would connect this back to you and in the city that you live in. Imagine someone who's traveling to your city and they want to figure out what are the best restaurants I can go to, what are the best places that I can go to, right? You'll be able to guide someone a lot easier, I think, versus just going onto a website and looking at the top 10 locations that you can go to. Usually you can actually negotiate the price down when you're in person, but that all depends on the place and the activity. So this works in theory. It just depends on the type of activity that you're doing and the place that you're at. For example, if you find a ticket for $10 at a zoo, trying to negotiate that price down might be a little difficult and probably not feasible, but it all depends. So you could compare a ticket for a zoo versus a ticket for a walking tour or a food tour. And the reason why I give this example is because when I was in Guadalajara, I only had to give the tour guide how much I felt like I wanted to. There wasn't a set price. And this is the same thing for transportation because before I went to Guadalajara, Mexico, I purchased transportation on Expedia, and I do recommend this website because it's actually pretty helpful, and you can find a lot of things on there. So I bought transportation before I left from the airport in Guadalajara to my hotel. So at about 40 minutes in the airport for my transportation, I was trying to get in contact with the company, and I had cell phone service issues. It was a whole big thing. That was a little frustrating. And then in the end, my transportation didn't come, so I ended up taking a taxi. And then I also did get my money back. That's less important. The more important thing is when you get to an airport, right, you're gonna have a host of taxis where you're able to negotiate the price because there's not usually a fixed price with some of these taxis. As well, there's Uber available nowadays, so you can also get an Uber. But of course, Guadalajara is a fairly big city, so it just depends on where you're going as far as availability of transportation. Now, the last tip that I have for you is to use your Spanish. You are finally making your dream come true of traveling to Peru, Argentina, or Ecuador. You're gonna be surrounded by Spanish all the time. You finally land, you're in the airport. All you see around you is Spanish signs. You hear native Spanish speakers. You don't hear a lot of is people speaking your native tongue. So this is a great opportunity for you to immerse yourself in Spanish culture and within the Spanish language, and to learn as much as possible about the history, about the music, about the food, but doing that not in your native tongue, but doing that to the best of your ability in Spanish. You're not just having a conversation about these different topics with your Spanish teacher on italki, or you're not in front of your computer watching a whole bunch of YouTube videos about the country that you're in. And you're definitely not just using Duolingo to learn Spanish, but you're actually surrounded by Spanish speakers. And this is just a phenomenal experience to be able to do this, not in a study setting, but be able to talk with native Spanish speakers in their country about their culture and who they are. And please don't be afraid to speak Spanish like I have done so many times in the past. For example, not wanting to go into a restaurant simply because I had too much fear that the servers won't be able to understand me. and I wouldn't be able to understand them. So I just missed out on eating great Mexican food. How crazy is that? Like when I went to a supermarket in the Dominican Republic, and I even had a lot of fear just going up to a worker and asking them about the different clothes that they had and the different types of products that they sold. And of course, a lot of those insecurities and fear just kind of decreased my amount of Spanish learning, because now I wasn't able to learn new vocab about asking about food, talking about clothes in a supermarket. Because instead of facing my fears, I just ran away. The same thing with friends. You can make so many new friends when you're traveling to countries in Latin America. But if you're too afraid to talk to them or too afraid to start a conversation, that reduces that amount of people that you can meet. So I hope these tips were very valuable to you and that they're going to help you during your travels to Latin America. Hasta luego.